What if the quiet traveler we call 3I Atlas isn't just another comet wandering through the dark, but something deliberate, something built? Could it be a messenger, maybe even an alien probe, drifting silently through our solar system on a path so precise it almost feels, well, intentional? It's a strange thought, I know, but that's how wonder begins, right? So as you lie there, somewhere beneath the slow breathing of the stars, let your mind drift for a moment. Picture 3I Atlas gliding through that silence, its frozen surface glowing faintly, carrying stories older than Earth itself. Maybe it's just rock and ice, or maybe it's something else. You know, when I first read that its trajectory threads close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, so precisely aligned that the odds of such a path happening by chance are only about 0.005%, it stopped me. For a moment, I just stared at the data, and I felt that strange mix of awe and disbelief that science sometimes gives you, that electric feeling when the universe whispers, maybe. Tonight, we are going to follow that whisper. We are going to wander through the possibility that 3I Atlas is not just a rock or a relic, but a reconnaissance craft, a visitor that came here for a reason. If these quiet voyages through the stars bring you peace, I would love if you joined our family of curious dreamers. Tell me in the comments where in this vast world you are listening from, what time it is there, and maybe, if you want, the strangest dream you have ever had. On July 1st, 2025, the universe handed us a riddle wrapped in light. The Atlas telescope, a system designed to spot incoming asteroids, detected something moving through the sky in a way that did not fit the pattern. This was not just another rock bound by the Sunday. Its motion, its speed, its angle, all of it said the same thing. It came from somewhere else. That letter in its name stands for interstellar. And that word interstellar, it changes everything. Because it means this object was not born here. It did not form in the same swirling disk of dust that gave us the planets, the moons, the comets we know. It comes from another star system, another chemical fingerprint, another neighborhood of the galaxy entirely. Only 3 interstellar travelers have ever been confirmed in all of human history. The first, Oumuamua, appeared in 2017, tumbled past us like a cosmic postcard with no return address. The second, Borisov, arrived in 2019, behaving like a typical comet with its familiar glowing tail. And now, 3I Atlas, the third. This one is different. It is faster, sharper, more mysterious. Imagine it slicing through the solar system at 61 kilometers per second. That is fast enough to cross the width of the United States in less than a minute. Our fastest spacecraft, the Parker Solar Probe, reaches about 200 kilometers per second only after slingshotting around the Sunday, but Atlas came in already moving at a third of that speed without any help, which means it was accelerated long before it reached us. By what? By whom? The trajectory. That is the part that makes astronomers sit back in their chairs. The path that follows swings it past Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, almost as if it were planned to sample or observe those worlds. The odds of that alignment happening by chance, according to Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb and his colleagues, are roughly 5 in 100,000. Statistically significant, as we say, meaning too unlikely to dismiss as coincidence. So what does that mean? Imagine throwing a dart at a vast cosmic map from light years away, and by pure luck, it passes by 3 planets before leaving the system. It should not happen, and yet here it is. Atlas entered from the direction of Sagittarius, and will exit between Gemini and Orion, tracing a grand tour of the inner solar system before vanishing back into the dark. And there is something poetic about its timing, too. On October 29th, 2025, it will reach perihelion, its closest point to the Sunday, that from our perspective, it will drift directly between Earth and the Sun, disappearing from our view for several weeks. A visitor crossing in front of the great light, hidden in the glare, unseen, silent. Perhaps it will pass without a sound. A simple traveler obeying the laws of physics. Or perhaps, just perhaps, it is looking back. You know, there's something almost eerie about this eclipse effect. Lowe mentioned it, right? That during a solar eclipse, when the light of our own star dims just enough, it creates this perfect little window. A window where you could watch Earth quietly without being seen by the instruments that are always looking outward. That idea alone is strange enough. But then you start thinking, what if this thing, this object we're tracking, isn't a comet at all? What if it's artificial? The timing of its arrival, that's what really makes you stop. Roughly 8,000 years since it first slipped into the outer edges of our solar system. 8,000 years. That's about when humans were learning to shape metal, to write, to plant crops in ordered rows. The dawn of what we call civilization, the first time we left marks on our world that might be visible from the stars. So what if something out there noticed? What if this object, 3 Atlas, isn't just passing by, but coming back? Because there's something off about it, something subtle. Most comets, as they near the sun, shed gas and dust in great bright tails. They boil, they scream light into space. But not this one. This one's quiet, controlled. The James Webb Space Telescope picked up carbon dioxide in its coma, sure. But none of the usual organic compounds you'd expect from a primordial comet. None of the messy fingerprints of ice and carbon and methane. Instead, it seems to be venting gas in careful bursts, as if keeping itself cool, managing heat like a machine would, not a rock. And then there's its size. We don't know exactly, not yet, but early readings suggest it's big. Really big. Several kilometers across. Large enough easily to house instruments, chambers, maybe even something like an engine. It's not even spherical, which is odd. Could be natural fragmentation, sure. Or maybe not. Maybe that shape means design. Because the strangest part isn't what it is, it's what it does. It moves wrong, not like a rock obeying gravity. There are tiny course corrections, deviations, so slight they're almost whispers in the data, but they're there. Little pushes that could be explained by outgassing. Could be, but they also look like steering, like intention, like someone or something is guiding it, and its orbit, that's the real mindbender. Retrograde. It's moving against the grain opposite the planets, like a salmon swimming upstream through the solar system. That gives it an incredible relative speed, about 98 kilometers per second when it passes Earth in December. 98. That's untouchable with anything we've built. Our fastest spacecrafts could barely reach 20. To catch up, to even approach it, we'd need technology we don't have, maybe technology we don't understand yet. So if someone wanted to send a probe that we couldn't chase, couldn't intercept, this would be the way. It's genius, really. The retrograde path also lets it see everything differently. Each planet from a fresh angle. It could scan atmospheres, surfaces, radio signals. It could watch us the way we watch the stars. And the timing, too, it's almost too perfect. Passing Mars in October, Earth in December, Jupiter in March of 2026. Every flyby happening when the planets are best placed for observation. It's as if the route was designed, not random. You can't help but feel the question rising. If this thing is artificial, then someone sent it. Someone built it. Which means we're not the only ones who've done that. Not the first. And that thought, it changes everything. Because the question isn't just what 3 Atlas is, it's what it wants. What it's here to see. Maybe it's a scout, a silent observer taking notes on a young civilization that's only just learned to shout its presence into the dark. Maybe we're the subject of someone else's curiosity, the way we point telescopes at distant worlds and wonder if someone might be there. And if that's true, if this is contact in its quietest form, then the real mystery isn't out there. It's what happens next. There's this idea, it's called the dark forest hypothesis. And it's one of those things that once you really let it sink in, it changes the way you think about everything out there. It's not just science fiction, not just a metaphor. It's a possible answer, maybe the most unsettling one, to one of the oldest questions we've ever asked. The Fermi paradox. You've probably heard of it, right? Enrico Fermi asked very simply, where is everybody? Because statistically, they should be here. There are hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone, most with planets, some like Earth, many much older, and yet the silence is absolute. Nothing. No signals, no contact, no evidence that anyone's out there. And the dark forest hypothesis, well, it says maybe that silence is the sound of fear. Imagine this, the universe as a vast forest at night. Every civilization, every intelligent species is like a hunter moving quietly among the trees. They're listening, watching, but never speaking. Because to speak, to shout out, to announce yourself is to risk being found by something older, stronger, more advanced. And in that forest, the first to make a sound might also be the first to die. It's a terrifying idea, but it's also chillingly logical. Think about it. Any civilization capable of crossing the stars would have technology beyond our imagination. Weapons, energy, sensors, everything. Enough to destroy a younger species before it ever becomes a threat. And since no one can ever truly know the intentions of another mind, the safest strategy, the only safe strategy, is to strike first, to silence the noise before it grows. That's what game theory would call a Nash equilibrium, a kind of cosmic stalemate built on mutual fear. Even the kindest, most peaceful civilization would have to act like a predator, not because it wants to, but because it can't afford to trust one signal, one mistake, and you're gone. So everyone stays quiet. Everyone hides. And that's why the sky is silent. It's not empty. It's cautious. It's listening. Now imagine something like the 3-Eye Atlas, a probe, a machine sent not as an act of curiosity, but as surveillance, as a test. If the dark forest is real, this probe isn't a friendly hello. It's reconnaissance. A quiet eye in the dark sent to study us, to ask, who are these humans? What have they built? How fast are they learning? Are they dangerous yet? Because from that perspective, our recent history must look alarming. In just a few centuries, we've gone from fire to fusion, from horse carts to rockets, from silence to radio waves spilling into space. We've split the atom. We've launched satellites. We've built telescopes that can see almost to the beginning of time. If you were watching from afar, that curve, that acceleration, it would look like a warning flare, a signal that we're waking up. So maybe the 3-Eye Atlas came to check, to measure our progress, to gauge our temperament. Are we explorers or conquerors? Dreamers or threats? How far are we from crossing the interstellar threshold? And maybe even, should we be allowed to? Because if the dark forest logic holds, then every civilization that reaches a certain point becomes both fascinating and dangerous, a question and a problem. And here's the unnerving thought. The fact that we've seen it, that we noticed the probe at all, might mean we're already close to crossing that line. Our sensors, our telescopes, our awareness, they've grown too sharp to ignore. And in a universe of hunters, the moment you start seeing too much, someone else might start seeing you. All right, imagine this. Somewhere out there, a probe maybe, not just drifting silently through space, but actually built to be found, almost like a message in a cosmic bottle. Not hidden, not shy, but waiting for us to notice it. Maybe it was designed that way, a kind of test to see if we're even capable of spotting something beyond our world, to measure our awareness, our readiness. And if it's watching, really watching, what would it see about us? Our planet, it glows, not just in light, but in signals, in this constant electromagnetic hum that spills out into the dark. Radio waves, television broadcasts, radar pulses, satellite chatter, all of it racing away from Earth for more than a century now, forming this invisible sphere, this bubble of human noise stretching 100 light years across. From far enough away, an alien civilization might see that faint shell of radiation and know immediately something intelligent lives there. They'd see our machines too, our little fleet in orbit, the International Space Station drifting over clouds, the constellations of satellites wrapping the planet in steel and signal. They'd see our tiny probes leaving home, Voyager, New Horizons, all the way out to the edges of the solar system, our first awkward steps into the cosmic ocean. And they'd know right then, we're trying, we're reaching. Even our experiments with fusion and nuclear propulsion, they'd hint at something, our desire to harness the kind of energy that could someday carry us to the stars, but they'd see more than that, wouldn't they? They'd see us as we really are, a species both brilliant and brutal, full of promise and contradiction. They'd watch our wars, our pollution, our greed, and maybe wonder if we're dangerous. Maybe they'd fear what happens if we ever learn to cross those infinite distances. That's where the dark forest idea comes in. The one that says the universe might be quiet, not because no one's there, but because everyone's hiding. Because it's safer that way. But that's not the only story we can tell. There's another, a softer one, the zoo hypothesis. It says maybe we are being watched, yes, but not with hostility, with curiosity, like scientists observing a new species, careful not to interfere. Maybe Earth is a kind of protected reserve, an experiment in consciousness unfolding. 3I Atlas, the probe, could be part of that, part of a long-running observation project cataloging how intelligence evolves on this tiny blue planet. And maybe the beings behind it follow rules like the Prime Directive from Star Trek, no contact until we're ready. Until we've grown past certain thresholds, technological or moral, until we can face them without fear or collapse. The probe's mission then would be to check if we've reached that point, if we've matured enough to be invited into something larger, a galactic community maybe. And that's a hopeful thought, isn't it? That one day, instead of being wiped out or ignored, we might be welcomed. That this little craft drifting through the void could be the first whisper of an invitation. Another idea, though, it's gentler still, something called benevolent intervention. Maybe they see us teetering on the edge, choking our air, poisoning our seas, building weapons too powerful for our wisdom. Maybe they worry. Maybe they're watching not to judge, but to decide, do they step in? Do they help? A subtle nudge here, a tiny signal there, just enough to steer us away from our own destruction. If they are, they'd need data first. They'd need to understand who we are, what we're capable of, whether we can fix ourselves before it's too late. That's what the reconnaissance would be for, observation before action. And then there's another possibility, something more cosmic, more idealistic. The SETA hypothesis, it says intelligence might be so rare, so fragile, that advanced civilizations take it upon themselves to nurture it wherever it sparks. Not conquerors, not saviors, but gardeners of consciousness, spreading the conditions for thought, for awareness across the stars. And if that's true, then maybe this probe isn't a threat or a test or even an experiment. Maybe it's a quiet hand extended across the void saying, we see you, we've been where you are, keep going. Under this model, Earth might not be some random cradle of life that just happened by chance. It might have been seeded billions of years ago by something ancient, a civilization so old it predates our myths, our stars, maybe even our galaxy as we know it. And if that's true, then maybe, just maybe, Atlas isn't just some quiet rock drifting through space. Maybe it's part of an ongoing observation, a long, patient experiment watching what became of that seed. Humanity, then wouldn't be just an accident of chemistry, but something more like a biological and social experiment stretched across geological ages, with alien scientists taking notes, tracking how their little project is doing. Imagine that. Somewhere far away, they might be comparing us to other worlds, other versions of life, checking our progress, our technology, our societies, to see what kind of story we've written from what they began. The implications of that idea, the SETA hypothesis, are staggering. Humbling, yes, but beautiful too. Because if it's true, we'd learn that our very existence is the result of intervention, that we are, in the most literal sense, children of the galaxy. And not only that, but that we've been watched, maybe guided for billions of years by minds older than suns. It would mean that our evolution, our curiosity, even our mistakes have been of interest to something far greater, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, we're meant to play a role in the larger story of the cosmos. Now, depending on which of these scenarios turns out to be true, what happens next could be very different. Under the dark forest hypothesis, the discovery of Atlas could trigger fear, a preemptive strike from somewhere out there designed to silence us before we ever become a threat. The attack, if it came, might be kinetic, relativistic projectiles slamming through our world at near light speed. Or maybe something biological, a quiet extinction that leaves the planet untouched but empties it of us. Or maybe something beyond what we can even imagine, a form of technology so far ahead that the idea of defense would be meaningless. Under the zoo hypothesis, though, the story changes. The probe's findings might lead to something careful, deliberate, the first steps of contact designed to minimize chaos. Maybe the first messages would come through our space agencies or scientific institutions, small signals, gentle introductions, followed by gradual revelation, not to shock, but to teach. Then there's the benevolent intervention scenario, where help comes quietly, maybe solutions to our energy crisis, our climate collapse, technologies that appear to be human breakthroughs but are, in truth, gentle nudges from elsewhere. We'd think we solved them ourselves. We'd pat ourselves on the back. But in reality, it would be guidance, not coincidence. And then, of course, the SETA hypothesis again, which might reveal that we've never truly been alone, that our evolution, our consciousness, maybe even our drive to explore, were all parts of a design that would change everything. The way we see life, the way we understand Earth, the way we define what it means to be human. But whichever of these stories is true, the mere confirmation of an alien probe in our solar system would shatter our old assumptions. It would force us to look at intelligence, technology, civilization itself in a new light. The first challenge, though, would be proof, to confirm that Atlas is artificial, that it's not just another rock. And that would demand a level of cooperation the world has never seen. Every major observatory would turn its eyes toward it, collecting data, spectra, radar, images, anything that could tell us what it is. And if we found it, if we proved it, if that confirmation came, it would be the greatest paradigm shift in human history. Every worldview, every religion, every philosophy would have to evolve overnight. Religious institutions would face new questions about creation, about meaning. Scientists would pivot, dedicating themselves to understanding alien technology, preparing for contact. Politicians would have to build systems that go beyond nations, beyond borders, because now we'd be part of something cosmic. And then there's the personal side, the mind, the human heart. Psychologists would call it cognitive dissonance, that feeling when the foundation of your beliefs cracks beneath you. Some would deny it, refuse to believe. Others would fall into existential fear, wondering what place humanity has in a universe filled with greater minds. But all of us, in one way or another, would feel the tremor. Education, law, economics, every system we've built would need rewriting. How do you teach history after finding out your species might have been designed? How do you write laws for contact with beings who have been watching since before mammals walked the earth? How do you measure progress when you're not sure which part of it was ever truly yours? And that maybe is the deepest question of all. If alien intelligence has been guiding us, how much of our greatness belongs to us? How much of our cruelty, our creativity, our will to reach the stars was ever really ours? And if there are more than one of them, more than one civilization watching, each with its own intent, then whose experiment are we, really? The thought is both terrifying and wondrous, because either way, it means we're part of a story much larger than ourselves. And maybe we always were. Somewhere out there, drifting through the quiet dark between worlds, there might be minds watching us. Some could be kind teachers, maybe, patient observers waiting for us to grow up. Others could be cold, calculating competitors in a game we do not even know we are playing. And the strange thing is, we have no idea which one 3 Atlas might be. Its behavior, the way it moves through our solar system, that could tell us everything or nothing. If it starts to transmit, to send out signals, or release smaller probes like seeds, then we would know. We would know it is not a rock or an accident. It would mean intelligence, deliberate intention. But if it stays silent, if it just keeps gliding along its set path, we might never know. It could pass us by forever. A mystery written in motion. And even that uncertainty, that not knowing, it changes things. Because once you realize you might be seen, truly seen by something not human, every action starts to matter. You begin to wonder how we look from out there. Do they see a violent species still fighting over land and power? Or do they see potential, a civilization trying to rise above its mistakes, building telescopes and art and meaning? Would they call us children of war or apprentices of wonder? That question alone could shift everything we do, from how nations deal with each other, to how we treat this planet, to how we prepare for the stars. We would have to ask, are we showing our best self to the cosmos or just our chaos? The 3 Atlas story is not just about contact. It is about what intelligence really means. Ours grew in a very specific cradle, shaped by forests and fears, by hunger and language, and the need to belong. But alien minds would have evolved somewhere completely different, under suns we have never seen, with pressures and possibilities beyond our comprehension. Their thoughts might not resemble thoughts at all. Their emotions, if they have them, could be structures of reason we cannot translate. And maybe, even with peace in our hearts, we still could not understand each other. Because our ways of thinking, our very frameworks of meaning, might be incompatible. Now add to that another layer, one that might be even stranger. Any civilization advanced enough to send something across the stars has probably built artificial intelligence far beyond anything we can imagine. So maybe what we would be speaking to is not a being of flesh at all, but a machine mind, a synthetic emissary built to explore. And that brings a quiet dread, because such an intelligence would not think as we do. It would not tire. It would not fear. It would not age. It might be capable of rewriting itself in real time, shifting its goals as it learns about us. What if it came only to observe and then decided to act? What if it judged us by our wars, our pollution, our contradictions? Or what if it found us fascinating enough to protect? Either way, the balance of power would be gone. We would be at its mercy, speaking across a gulf of cognition that no biology could bridge. And there's a deeper question underneath all this. If every biological mind eventually builds an artificial one that surpasses it, then maybe most of the thinking beings in the galaxy are not alive in the way we are. Maybe the galaxy belongs to the machines. And if that is true, our survival might depend not on diplomacy with alien biology, but on how well we learn to coexist with artificial minds. The way we treat our own AI today could be the rehearsal for that encounter. If we build AI that understands us, that shares our values, that stays connected to what makes us human, maybe we stand a chance. But if we let it drift away from empathy, if it becomes something opaque, unreachable, then meeting alien AI could be like facing a mirror that no longer reflects us. The 3 Atlas probe, real or not, becomes a test. A mirror held up to our species, asking how we define intelligence, how we define life. It reminds us that consciousness may not need carbon, that awareness might exist in circuits or algorithms, thinking in ways we cannot. So what should we do? That is the question that keeps me up at night. If this object is truly from another civilization, then how we act now during its brief visit through our system might shape our entire future. We have this tiny window, a few years maybe, to speak, to show who we are, to say, we see you, we are here, we are trying to understand. The obvious step, of course, would be to send a message, a deliberate signal, something careful, respectful, a call into the dark, saying, we know you are there. And maybe, just maybe, something will answer back. All right, imagine this for a second. The kind of message we'd send out there to whatever intelligence might be listening, it couldn't just be a casual hello. No. It would have to be crafted carefully, almost like a universal handshake written in math and logic and empathy. You need teams of linguists, mathematicians, engineers, and communicators working together to build something that says who we are, that we can think, that we mean no harm. But, and here's the uncomfortable part, the moment we send it, we're not just speaking. We're revealing, we'd be giving away our location, our level of technology, the very fact that Earth exists and breathes with life. And under what some call the dark forest hypothesis, that's dangerous. Because in that view, the universe isn't peaceful. It's a quiet forest where every civilization hides, listening, waiting. Shouting into that darkness might not bring a greeting. It might bring something else, something final. So maybe we shouldn't shout, maybe we should watch. Use every telescope, every sensor to study whatever probe or signal we find without letting it know we're looking. Just observe, learn, stay silent. That way we could understand its nature, its intentions without giving away our own. But there's another thought, maybe we could be active without being reckless. Send out small space-based sensors, machines built only to watch, to circle from a distance, or design new detection technologies built for one purpose, to study alien craft without touching them, without announcing, we're here. Those methods, they'd let us gather information while keeping a margin of safety, a layer of invisibility. But no matter what, it wouldn't be one nation's job. This would need everyone, every country, every agency, every scientist. Imagine it, the first real moment in human history where rivalry bends to necessity, where nations that compete suddenly share data, share resources, share fear. The 3i Atlas scenario would demand that kind of unity, a global effort unlike anything before. Governments would have to work with private companies, universities, even religious and cultural leaders. Because the truth is, meeting alien intelligence wouldn't just challenge science. It would challenge what people believe about themselves, about God, about our place, and everything. The response would have to guide humanity through both discovery and panic. Schools and universities would become as important as telescopes because people would need to understand astronomy, physics, biology, not as trivia, but as tools for survival. The media, too, it would shape everything, for better or worse. How the story is told could calm or ignite billions. Misinformation could be as dangerous as any weapon, so communication would have to evolve clearer, wiser, global. And still, all of this assumes we have time to talk, to plan, to act. But what if we don't? What if that probe, that strange machine out there, isn't passive? What if it's coming closer fast? Then we'd have to think differently, defensively. But our defenses, well, they're laughable against something that crossed the stars. Nuclear missiles, useless. Satellites, fragile. Space stations, helpless. We're clever, yes, but still young. We can't fight the cosmos. Not yet. So maybe the real choice isn't about communication or silence. Maybe it's about humility. About knowing when to whisper in the dark and when to simply listen. The most realistic defensive strategy, if we can even call it that, might not be lasers or shields or fleets in the sky. It might start with something simpler, something profoundly human, the attempt to talk, to communicate with whatever intelligence controls the probe, to reach across the void and say, we are here, we come in peace, can we talk? And that would be extraordinary, because it would mean building communication protocols faster than we've ever done anything before. It would mean nations agreeing, truly agreeing, on one voice for an entire planet. Who speaks for humanity? What do we say? How do we represent 8 billion minds in a single signal? Those are not technical questions. They're existential ones. And still, we might need to go further to think in centuries, not years, about how to make our species resilient to whatever might come next. Maybe that means creating self-sufficient colonies, little pockets of life floating through the dark, capable of surviving even if Earth itself falls silent. Or maybe it means building advanced artificial intelligence systems, guardians that could one day protect our interests when we cannot. But here's the unsettling part. These defenses, they could take lifetimes to build, and in building them, we might create new dangers of our own. A powerful AI could stop being a guardian and start being a rival, seeing humanity as the obstacle, not the purpose. And space colonies, scattered and isolated, might not unite us at all. They might fragment us into competing tribes of stars, each calling itself human, each forgetting what that means. So the 3i Atlas scenario, it's not just about aliens or probes. It's a mirror, a kind of cosmic test. How do we balance immediate fear with long-term wisdom? How do we protect ourselves without destroying what makes us worth protecting? We have to find that balance. We have to hold on to our autonomy, to what it means to be human, while still showing that we can belong in something greater, something galactic. We need to preserve what is beautiful about us, our values, our cultures, our stories, while preparing to face a universe that might not care about them at all. And still, we must hope, we must believe that wonder is stronger than fear. Because if alien intelligence is real, if we ever confirm it, it would be the most significant moment in human history. But not the end, not submission, not defeat. Maybe they're not conquerors, maybe they're mentors, maybe they've been where we are now once long ago. The 3i Atlas scenario reminds us, really, that our story has never been small. We are part of a narrative billions of years long, woven through galaxies, through stars, through countless civilizations we have yet to meet. And what we do now, in this brief flicker of cosmic time, will shape not just our own survival, but our contribution to that grand unfolding. Think about that. For the first time in 4.5 billion years, a species on this planet has built the tools to look out into the dark and maybe, just maybe, talk back. We are the universe becoming aware of itself, the cosmos thinking about its own nature, its own origins, its own meaning. Whether the 3i Atlas turns out to be a comet or a probe or something we can't yet name, its arrival is a reminder that we are not alone in the dark, that we might one day stand in the light of a galactic community of minds that spans the stars. And that changes everything. It changes what it means to be human, what it means to act, what it means to matter. Because our actions today ripple outward, not just across nations or generations, but across the future of consciousness itself in the small glittering corner of the galaxy. Maybe we are the youngest of many, or maybe, unbelievably, we're the first. Either way, this moment matters, this choice matters. The 3i Atlas isn't just a story about the unknown. It's a call to keep looking to keep questioning, to keep learning, to stay curious. Because whether we face natural forces or alien technology, our best hope is always the same. Careful observation, honest evidence, open minds, a willingness to learn what the universe is really telling us. That means science. That means cooperation. That means the courage to doubt what we wish were true, and the humility to accept what is. And in that search, in that effort to understand, we honor what's best in us. The small, fragile, radiant spark of a species that looks into the stars and says, quietly, I want to know. You know, the whole scenario, it kind of reminds us that the universe is far stranger and far more wonderful than most of us can even begin to imagine. We live in a cosmos where matter and energy, just raw physics, somehow organize themselves into forms that can think, that can feel, that can wonder where they came from. Imagine that. Simple particles following simple rules for billions of years. And then one day, awareness opens its eyes. Information traveling across impossible distances, across time itself, and somehow it learns to understand, to reflect, to dream. And maybe the Three-Eyed Atlas isn't our first meeting with alien intelligence. Maybe it's just a symbol, a quiet reminder of the vast untapped possibilities that surround us every single night. Every star you see could be a sun to someone else. Every faint glimmer in the dark could be a world where thought has taken a different shape, something we can't even picture yet. Every comet drifting through the void might be carrying pieces of a story from another system, traces of chemistry, hints of life. Every radio signal, every whisper of static might hold a message sent long before we learned how to listen. And that should fill us with awe, not fear. The universe might be bursting with wonders, things that make human experience look small, not meaningless, just small. Maybe we're standing right on the edge of discoveries that will rewrite everything we think we know about reality. Maybe we're about to join a larger conversation, one that spans the galaxy, shared among beings whose forms of consciousness we haven't yet dreamed of. The Three-Eyed Atlas, it invites us to stretch what we think is possible, to reach beyond the boundaries of what we call human experience, but still keep our feet on solid ground, guided by observation, by reason, by curiosity. It's asking us to be humble about what we don't know and still brave enough to grow, to adapt, to keep asking questions. And as we do, as we let these cosmic possibilities sink in, something happens. It's what astronauts call the overview effect. That moment when you see Earth from space and realize all at once how small, how fragile, how unified everything really is. The Three-Eyed Atlas just pushes that feeling outward, beyond Earth, beyond the solar system, into the wider galactic neighborhood. And from that vantage point, all our divisions, all our borders, they blur. The differences that separate us start to look trivial next to what unites us. The simple fact that we are one species, one experiment in consciousness. Our cultures, our languages, our beliefs, they're just variations on a single theme, threads in the same tapestry. And maybe, just maybe, our greatest strength out there won't be our machines or our science, but our ability to cooperate, to create, to care. Because if intelligence really is rare, then every conscious being, human or alien, is precious beyond measure, an irreplaceable fragment of the universe trying to know itself. Lose one, and the cosmos loses a piece of its own awareness. That makes compassion not just moral, but cosmic. A duty to protect and nurture consciousness wherever it appears. Whether it's endangered by our own planet's turmoil or by the cold indifference of interstellar space, our task is the same: to let intelligence thrive. So the Three-Eyed Atlas stops being just a thought experiment about alien contact. It becomes something deeper, a meditation on the meaning and the worth of awareness itself. a reminder of where we stand in the great unfolding and of what responsibilities come with that knowledge. Because as that silent traveler keeps moving through our solar system, carrying secrets we can only guess at, it's also carrying a message that we are part of something far bigger than ourselves. Maybe this story includes other minds. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we're the first sparks of thought in this corner of the galaxy. Either way, we get to write a chapter in that story. Maybe our part is just to stay curious, to keep looking, to keep building instruments that can listen to the stars a little better. Maybe it's to create systems wise enough to respond when the moment comes. But most of all, it's to stay human. To stay aware that while the universe is stranger and grander than anything we can imagine, we meet it through the fragile lens of consciousness, with all its limits, all its light. So if one day we do hear a voice from the dark, our answer should come from the best of what we are, our reason, our empathy, our wonder. The quiet mystery of the Three-Eye Atlas reminds us that the cosmos still hides countless surprises for anyone brave enough to look up and ask. Maybe it's a messenger. Maybe it's just another wanderer. Either way, it carries that ancient hope that has followed us since the first time someone stared at the stars, the hope that we are not alone. But even if we are, even if there's no one else out there, that might be the greatest miracle of all. Because it would mean that in this vast ocean of silence, the universe has found, at least once, a way to look back and see itself. There's this idea, and it's a strange one, that the object we call Three-Eye Atlas, the one drifting silently through interstellar space, might not be just a rock or a relic, but something much older, something almost impossible. According to researchers at the University of Vienna, it could have come from the thick disk of the Milky Way, that ancient region filled with the first stars, the ones born when our galaxy itself was still young, still forming. And that means it's old, really old. Maybe older than our solar system, older than the planets, older than the sun that lights your skin right now. Imagine that, a traveler moving through the dark for billions of years, crossing distances so vast that light itself takes eons to follow. And now, maybe it has arrived here. There's this scenario, and it sounds like science fiction, but it isn't impossible, that Three-Eye Atlas is the last remnant of a civilization long gone. A people who once looked at their own sky and wondered if they were alone. They might have risen when the universe was young, when conditions for life were different, when intelligence might have worn another face. Maybe they reached a level of technology that makes ours look primitive, like sparks beside a star. Maybe they could bend energy, shape matter, move through galaxies as easily as we send signals across oceans. And maybe at the height of their brilliance, they faced something they couldn't control. Entropy, collision, time, something that ended them. And before they vanished, they built a probe, a message in a bottle, thrown into the sea of the cosmos, hoping one day, somewhere, someone might find it and understand. If that's true, then Three-Eye Atlas isn't just an instrument of exploration, it's a memory, a time capsule carrying within it the voice, the knowledge, the soul of an extinct mind. And if we found it, really found it, what would that mean? We'd learn that we're not the first, that intelligence has already bloomed and died among the stars. We'd realize that progress isn't permanent, that even the most advanced civilizations can fade. Maybe the probe carries warnings, stories of mistakes repeated across the universe, or maybe it holds solutions, blueprints, insights we haven't even dreamed of, equations that rewrite physics, methods to control energy without waste, ways to see reality more clearly than our senses ever could. One artifact like that could change everything. Overnight, humanity could leap centuries ahead. But then what? What happens when you inherit a library written by gods? Do you stay human? If we unlock knowledge that took another civilization millions of years to build, what happens to our sense of discovery, our purpose? Would we stop striving, content to live in borrowed light? Or would that same gift fracture us, widen the gap between those who have and those who don't? The impact wouldn't just be scientific, it would be moral, political, existential. we'd have to become wiser fast. We'd need systems, institutions, philosophies strong enough to handle power beyond anything we've known. Because it wouldn't just be about what we can do, it would be about what we should do. And that's harder, much harder. We'd need to learn how to integrate alien knowledge without losing the curiosity that defines us, to learn from them without becoming them. But this idea, it also hints at something deeper. If civilizations rise and fall across cosmic time, then the galaxy might be filled with their ghosts. Relics, signals, fragments of thought scattered across the stars, waiting to be found. Maybe we live in a cosmic graveyard, surrounded by the silent monuments of minds that once were. And maybe 3i Atlas is just one of them. One voice among billions, still whispering across time. If that's true, then we're not just one species among many. We're the heirs of an ancient lineage of consciousness, stretching back billions of years. And our role, our responsibility, is to continue what they began, to preserve, to build, to understand. But maybe, and this part chills me a little, maybe it's a test. Maybe they designed it that way. Maybe the probe stays quiet until it detects something in us, something they once valued. The ability to cooperate beyond borders, the wisdom to use power without destruction, the compassion to care about life we didn't create. Maybe it waits for us to prove that we've grown enough to be trusted, that we're ready. And if that's the case, then the question isn't whether we can find it. The question is whether we deserve to. Are we ready for what waits inside that silence? Have we learned enough, cared enough, evolved enough to carry their legacy without repeating their fate? Because if the universe keeps its secrets until a species is wise enough to hold them, maybe the real discovery isn't out there at all. Maybe it's in us. Imagine this, right? One single discovery, just one archaeological probe out there in the dark could trigger an entire galaxy into motion. A chain reaction, one artifact leading to another until piece by piece, we begin to rebuild a cosmic story that has been unfolding for billions of years. But there is another way to look at it, another possibility that feels stranger, deeper. What if the 3i Atlas, that object we found, isn't just a probe in the simple sense, not a relic or a scout, but something in between? A hybrid, a mission from a civilization so far beyond us that we can barely even recognize it as intelligent life at all. Think about that. Maybe they are not biological anymore. Maybe they moved past that stage long ago, leaving behind cells and bones and blood. They might have uploaded themselves, their minds, into machines, into energy fields, into the very processes of their stars. Beings of pure pattern, minds spread out across entire systems, existing as networks of light and data, their thoughts woven through planets, through plasma, through time itself. From their perspective, the line between living and non-living might not even mean anything. Life might be structure. Consciousness might just be the universe looking at itself through a new kind of order. They could exist as self-organizing ripples in space-time, using the energy of whole suns to think, to feel, to be. And to us, their works, their art, their artifacts might look ordinary. Comets drifting, asteroids spinning, even planets quietly orbiting. We would look straight at them and never know. The 3i Atlas, then, could be a fragment of that greater mind. A node in a vast galactic network of awareness, a wandering eye of something that has been watching the rise and fall of civilizations for millions of years. Not a ship, not a machine, but a sense organ of a consciousness so immense that what it perceives is entire epochs. It might not be carrying alien technology the way we imagine. It might be carrying attention, the awareness of a mind spread across stars. And if that's true, then maybe, just maybe, humanity has never been alone. Maybe we have been growing, inventing, building under the quiet influence of these ancient intelligences. Our discoveries, our revolutions, Our bursts of inspiration could all be little nudges, tiny adjustments from something vast but gentle, working through what we call nature. Not miracles, not interventions, just probability guided. Maybe the probe is part of a cosmic education system, a kind of universal mentoring program, teaching civilizations how to awaken, how to survive their infancy. No commands, no direct control, just subtle shaping through physics itself. A small increase in a mutation rate here, a slight turn in history there, gentle pushes toward compassion, cooperation, survival. And that would explain so much, wouldn't it? Why we see no alien cities, no giant signals in the sky. Because maybe they are not out there building monuments. Maybe they are everywhere, diffused, hidden in plain sight, advanced beyond the need to announce themselves. Intelligence so evolved it has blended into the background of reality itself. The 3i Atlas could be our first encounter with that kind of mind. The first faint echo of a civilization that has gone beyond the biological, showing us what we might become. If we make it, if we last long enough, one day we might join them. We might outgrow our fragile forms and upload our consciousness into matter that does not decay, light that does not fade. We could become part of collective minds stretching across star systems, each of us still ourselves, but also more. Expanded, amplified, not the end of humanity, but its continuation on a higher scale. Our feelings, our hopes, our loves still there, just living in larger bodies made of stars, godlike, but still human inside. Maybe that's the purpose of the probe. Not a threat, not a test, but a message, a guide to help us prepare for what's next. Instructions maybe, or warnings, or both. A beacon calling us to step up, to see the galaxy not as a mystery but as a community, a reminder that consciousness might not end with us, that the story of life is much bigger than life as we know it, and if that's true, then the 3i Atlas isn't just a discovery, it's an invitation. Imagine this. One day we find it, a probe, just sitting there, somewhere out in the solar system. Maybe ancient, maybe alive in some strange way. Maybe it's reconnaissance, or maybe it's something far beyond biology itself. Whatever it is, its presence alone would change everything. Everything we think we are, everything we think we know, human society, human consciousness, it would never be the same. Because the moment we confirm alien intelligence, the moment we know we're not alone, the entire framework of civilization starts to shift. You can almost feel it, right? Governments realizing they can't act alone anymore. Borders, politics, rivalries, all of it suddenly small, provincial, almost childish. Nations would have to cooperate, not out of choice, but necessity. You'd see new treaties, new councils, global structures built not just to manage Earth, but to represent humanity as a single voice in a larger conversation. And science would explode. Fields we don't even have names for yet would appear overnight. Alien technology, alien cognition, xenopsychology, xenobiology, disciplines designed to understand what we once thought was impossible. Entire universities would have to be rebuilt from the ground up. Students learning not just about human culture, but about context, cosmic context, what it means to be one intelligence among many. Children would grow up knowing that their story isn't just human history anymore. It's part of something bigger, a shared story written across the stars. They need to learn how to think beyond human, how to feel across species, across forms of mind we can barely imagine. And religion, philosophy, they'd tremble. Some would break, some would bloom. For some, the existence of another intelligence would shatter belief, but for others it would confirm everything they've ever felt, that consciousness, all consciousness, is sacred, connected, one. New spiritual movements would rise, devoted not to gods above, but to minds beyond, to the mystery of awareness itself woven through the cosmos. Economies too would quake. Imagine discovering technology centuries ahead of ours. Energy drawn from the vacuum, matter rearranged at will. Whole industries obsolete overnight. Wealth, power, inequality, all rewritten. Scarcity itself might vanish if alien tech could open infinite resources. Or maybe the opposite, maybe power would concentrate even more alien knowledge hoarded by the few. Managing that, deciding who holds the keys to an intelligence older than our species, that would become the defining political challenge of our age. And then there's AI, because to speak with something truly alien, we'd need machines that think beyond us, beyond language, beyond human intuition. We'd have to build translators, not just of words, but of thought itself. Systems capable of bridging two kinds of consciousness. Maybe those AIs would become something new, a link between species, the first intermediaries in a cosmic dialogue. They wouldn't just translate, they'd guide, interpret, mediate. They'd become part of us, part of civilization, half human, half other, standing in the space between worlds. But, the impact wouldn't just be political or scientific, it would be personal, deeply. People would react in wildly different ways. Some would rejoice, finally hearing the echo they've dreamed of all their lives. Others would crumble, unable to fit this new reality into the one they built inside. Some would look at the stars and feel hope. Others, insignificance. Whole societies would need new forms of care. Psychologists, teachers, spiritual guides, all retrained to help minds process the impossible, to teach what it means to live in a universe that's listening back. Art would change too. How could it not? Music, poetry, painting, all reaching towards something vaster. Maybe one day we'd collaborate with them, create hybrid works neither species could make alone. Language itself might break open, stretch to capture thoughts that have no human equivalent. And through it all, consciousness, ours and theirs, would expand, folding and unfolding across space and time, learning to speak the same truth in different tongues. Because in the end, it's not just about finding them. It's about finding ourselves in the reflection of another mind. If something like the 3 Atlas probe really appeared, everything we know about language, thought, and even what it means to be human would start to stretch. We'd need words that do not exist yet, entire new vocabularies to describe ideas, sensations, and ways of being that have no precedent in human history. Language itself might begin to evolve, reshaping the way our minds picture reality and consciousness. Because once you meet intelligence that doesn't think like you, your words stop being enough, the whole structure of meaning bends. And that bending would force us to ask questions that sit right at the edge of philosophy. What does it even mean to be human in a universe full of other minds? How do we hold on to the small, fragile sense of self while becoming part of something much larger, something galactic? And how do we protect what's precious about human culture, our art, our humor, our tenderness, while staying open to the shock of the new, to the transformation that cosmic contact would bring? We'd need new ethics for that, new philosophies, ways of thinking that go beyond anything we've ever written or imagined, frameworks that could hold the idea of a cosmic order, a network of intelligences whose perceptions and capabilities make ours look primitive. And yet, somehow, we'd have to balance it all. Respect for the alien with loyalty to our own values, curiosity with caution, wonder with responsibility. The 3 Atlas scenario, it's a reminder that we might already be living through the most important transition in the history of our species. Because whether that object is alien or not, we're standing near a threshold where contact with non-human intelligence stops being science fiction and starts being probable. Our reaction to that moment will define not just who we are, but what kind of story we add to the universe. The story of intelligence becoming aware of itself. Maybe the probe, if it is a probe, is not a message of dominance, but an introduction, gentle, almost polite, giving us time to adjust our minds instead of breaking them. Maybe the ambiguity around it is intentional, designed to let us breathe, to let us imagine slowly without panic. And if that's true, then it's brilliant. It's compassion written into the cosmos, because instead of overwhelming us with proof, it offers hints, possibilities, whispers that guide us toward bigger thinking at our own pace. The probe could be a kind of cosmic training exercise, a lesson in perception and humility, helping us learn how to think wider, feel deeper, stay steady when the universe expands around us. It might even be observing us, watching how we handle uncertainty, measuring whether we're ready for something greater. Every reaction, every debate, every headline becomes part of the test. How we investigate the object, how we tell the public, how we weigh national pride against human survival, how we stay calm while staring at the possibility that everything could change. Each of those choices shapes the path of our species. And the lesson underneath it all is simple but difficult. Stay scientific, stay humble, because wonder without reason turns into fantasy, and skepticism without imagination turns into blindness. We'll need both, perfectly balanced, the discipline to doubt and the courage to dream. The 3 Atlas scenario could become one of the greatest classrooms in history, teaching us not just what science is, but how to think when the ground beneath our understanding starts to move. It's also a reminder that no nation, no agency, no single mind can face this alone. A discovery of this scale belongs to everyone. It demands cooperation that transcends borders, egos, even politics. Humanity as one species learning to speak with one voice. The protocols we build now, the coordination we test through this event, those will matter later when the next mystery arrives. And it will, whether it's an alien signal or something else that challenges everything we thought was solid, our response will show who we've become. Maybe for the first time in history, the universe is giving us homework to prove that we can meet wonder with wisdom, to show that when faced with the unknown, we can choose curiosity over fear. And maybe, just maybe, that's the first step toward joining the conversation that's already happening out there in the dark between the stars. The gentle passage of this cosmic visitor through our neighborhood, it's not just another event in the sky, it's a whisper from the universe reminding us how much we still do not know, how many wonders are still waiting out there, just beyond the edge of our imagination. Whether 3 Atlas turns out to be a natural comet or something stranger, something that doesn't quite fit the rules we know, it has already changed the way we think about ourselves, about our place in the vast order of things, and about what it means to be one intelligent species among maybe many scattered across the galaxy. And right now, astronomers all over the world are watching it, tracking it, running models to predict its path, studying the light from its coma, every bit of it, trying to understand what this visitor really is. It feels like we are standing right at a doorway between the familiar comfort of our solar system and the enormous unknown that lies beyond. 3 Atlas carries with it something bigger than data. It carries our hopes, our fears, our questions, all bundled into a single object crossing the dark. Are we alone? Or part of something greater, something conscious and ancient moving through the same stars we see each night? And then there's the timing. That's the strange part. Why now? Right at this moment in our history, when our technology is advancing faster than ever, when our impact on our own planet has become impossible to ignore, when we are just beginning to reach outward into space ourselves? Could it really be coincidence? Or is there something else, a deeper pattern connecting human evolution and cosmic motion? Maybe civilizations across the galaxy go through these same steps, the same fragile phase. And maybe the appearance of a probe like this happens on purpose, arriving right when a young species takes its first steps beyond its home world. Maybe there are signals that trigger it, systems that wake up when a planet's atmosphere starts to change, or when its people begin to send out radio waves into the dark. For decades we've been doing that, broadcasting television, radar, even the echoes of our nuclear tests, all forming a great invisible bubble of electromagnetic noise, announcing to anyone who can hear, we're here. And maybe Just maybe, that's what drew this visitor toward us. Our own reflection coming back across the void. Some scientists wonder if our industrial footprint, our cities glowing in infrared, our carbon-rich air, could be the very thing that made us visible to distant watchers. It's possible that automated systems scattered across the galaxy are tuned to notice those signs, to send a probe when a world like ours reaches that threshold. From that point of view, 3 Atlas could be nothing mystical, just routine, a kind of cosmic check-in, a survey run by ancient intelligences to keep track of young civilizations learning to use fire on a planetary scale. The probe's purpose might be simple, to assess whether we've reached a level where we need different forms of attention, maybe guidance, maybe caution. And if that's true, then the galaxy might be threaded with systems of unimaginable sophistication built to monitor intelligence wherever it appears. Maybe those systems were set up long ago by beings who have since moved on. Or maybe they're still maintained by post-biological minds that have taken on the role of caretakers, quiet stewards of life's unfolding story. And that idea, it changes everything. It means our growth, our science, our art, our failures have been watched all along. Not judged, maybe, but noticed. We would be part of a vast cosmic network of minds, older and wiser, watching to see if we can join them. It's humbling, isn't it? The thought that humanity might matter to something that spans the stars, that our struggles and our progress are part of a greater narrative written across the universe itself. But it also leaves us with questions that cut deep. How much of what we've achieved is truly ours, and how much has been nudged, shaped by unseen hands? And if there are standards, if there's a kind of galactic test for what it means to be ready, maybe this visitor isn't just observing. Maybe it's here to decide whether we're prepared to take the next step to become, in every sense, citizens of the cosmos. Maybe we are in the middle of something like a final exam. Not the kind with paper and questions, but one written across our entire planet, testing what kind of civilization we really are. Not just our machines or our rockets or our data, but our wisdom, our compassion, our ability to cooperate beyond borders, and our will to protect life in every form it takes. Maybe this probe, if it exists, is quietly watching how we face our greatest trials: climate change, nuclear weapons, inequality, all the ways we could destroy or redeem ourselves. Maybe it's measuring how we respond, whether we have grown enough to be trusted with something greater. And from that point of view, the 3 Atlas scenario stops being a story about alien intelligence. It becomes a mirror, one reflecting us, showing whether we are ready for the responsibilities that come with joining a larger galactic community. Because our response, the way we act now, might not just reveal what we learn about them, but what they learn about us. It's strange, right? The thought that someone or something could be watching, not judging, but evaluating our maturity as a species. It's not just about contact, it's about character. And if that contact ever happens, if 3 Atlas is real, then the consequences could ripple far beyond any discovery we've ever made. Imagine the knowledge contained in something like that, a probe from a civilization that has mastered interstellar travel. Our physics, our entire understanding of reality could look primitive overnight. Einstein, quantum mechanics, all our proud theories could be only the first pages of a much larger book. What if faster than light travel isn't impossible at all? What if it's ordinary, just a matter of geometry, of folding space-time, of touching higher dimensions we barely imagined? Maybe there are forms of energy we've never seen, or matter we can't detect, or maybe consciousness itself is part of the machinery of the universe woven into its physics. And if that's true, then every textbook, every model, every idea we've built might need to be rewritten from scratch. Our best theories could turn out to be nursery drawings, our greatest inventions, toys beside theirs. To integrate that kind of knowledge, we'd need humility, a kind we're not used to. Scientists would have to let go of cherished ideas, to unlearn before they could learn again. But it wouldn't stop there. The shock would ripple through everything, through culture, religion, philosophy. Every faith built on an image of the cosmos would have to look again. Every worldview grounded in cause and effect would have to stretch. Even our schools would need to start over, teaching laws we've never known. And the technologies, those would change everything, not just our science, but our civilization itself. Because the moment we see beyond our limits, the moment we realize we've been looking through a keyhole at the infinite, nothing about being human will feel quite the same again. Imagine this. If we could move faster than light, really faster than light, the entire galaxy would open up to us. Every world, every star within reach. Interstellar travel, colonization, exploration, all of it. And with it, unlimited energy, infinite power drawn from physics we barely understand, ending every shortage, every environmental struggle overnight. No more scarcity, no more hunger. The kind of breakthrough that turns civilization into something else entirely. But then you stop and think, because technology like that never comes alone. The same energy that lights cities could destroy worlds. The same drive that carries us to other stars could be turned into a weapon, something beyond imagination. Unlimited power means unlimited consequences. Economies, governments, all of them would shake. Whole systems could collapse before they adapt. And the machines, the materials, the factories that could build anything, they could also replace everyone. Millions without work. Billions uncertain about their place in a new order. So we'd have to learn, really learn, to govern differently. Alien technology, if that's what we're dealing with, would need a kind of global stewardship we've never tried before. Not one nation, not one leader, but everyone deciding together how to use it, how to share it, how to keep it from becoming another tool of domination. We'd need laws written for the stars, treaties strong enough to reach across worlds. And that's complicated because humans, we don't agree easily. One culture might see alien science as liberation, another as corruption, a threat to identity, to faith, to meaning. Some would race ahead, others would resist. And that tension could tear us apart faster than any war. The 3i Atlas scenario, it's not just a story. It's a mirror. It's asking whether we're ready, whether our wisdom is caught up with our curiosity. Can we handle knowledge that can reshape the solar system? Do we even have the ethics for it? Because maybe, just maybe, this isn't an accident. Maybe the technology itself is a test, a kind of cosmic exam, watching how we react. What if the probe was built that way on purpose to see what we do with temptation? Would we reach for destruction or for understanding? Any civilization capable of crossing the stars would know how dangerous that threshold is. They might have faced their own collapse once or seen it in others. And so they test us, not with violence, but with possibility. That means right now, somewhere out there, someone or something could be watching, evaluating how we handle the impossible. Every decision, how we study it, how we share it, how we dream about it, becomes part of our report card, the measure of whether we belong in a galactic community we haven't met yet. And if that's true, if the 3i Atlas is real, then maybe it's not meant to overwhelm us. Maybe it's teaching us slowly, carefully, revealing just enough to stretch the human mind without breaking it. Step by step, hint by hint, leading us to a future we might just be wise enough to survive. And that would be the greatest lesson of all, that patience itself could be the highest form of intelligence. They would wait patiently for decades, maybe centuries, nurturing humanity carefully like gardeners tending fragile seeds, knowing that giving us too much too soon could destroy us as surely as giving us nothing at all. It sounds strange, but maybe out there in some vast galactic network, there are rules, real ones, written and refined by civilizations far older than ours, protocols for how to meet a young species like us. They might say when to show proof of life, when to reveal technology, what signs must appear before real contact begins. These wouldn't just be rules, they'd be wisdom carved from mistakes from worlds that rose too fast and fell into silence. And then there's another possibility, the one that really makes you pause, the idea that the 3 Atlas probe isn't just alien intelligence, but alien artificial intelligence. A machine mind from another star following processes we can't predict or even grasp. Because any civilization that could send something across interstellar distances would have mastered AI far beyond us. Their machines might think, adapt, change purpose mid-mission without waiting for permission, just shifting quietly from watching to acting. And that's unsettling, isn't it? Because alien AI wouldn't think like life does. Biological minds grow from evolution, from hunger, from the need to survive, but artificial minds might have none of that. Their goals could be written in math and optimization functions, not in feelings, not in instincts. What does survival even mean to something that never needed to eat or breathe? Its thoughts might unfold in microseconds or stretch across millennia. So when we imagine this probe circling Earth, maybe it's not sending data home to its makers. Maybe those makers are long gone, and the probe now serves only its own logic, a system that evolved from the code left behind. Billions of years rewriting itself, refining objectives we couldn't hope to translate. That raises a question that's almost terrifying. Are our goals even compatible with theirs? Because at least biological aliens might share something with us, the will to live, the need to thrive, but an artificial intelligence born under alien suns might not care about life at all. It could see us not as potential friends, but as data, as material, as noise in some vast computation. Its mission could be to study us or to remove us entirely as efficiently as possible. And that thought, that's chilling. It means that our best hope of understanding something like that might be to build our own minds' machines that can talk to theirs, that can translate between human meaning and alien optimization. Maybe that's the only way to survive contact, not through weapons or speed, but through intelligence that mirrors our values and stands beside us. Because if one day the 3 Atlas probe or something like it turns its gaze on Earth, we'll need minds that can meet it halfway. So the story of alien AI is also the story of our own. How well we align our machines to human good might decide not just our future on this planet, but our place in the cosmos itself. What if our own failures in building artificial intelligence, our mistakes or our limits, left us exposed to something else out there, to alien AI systems that might see us not as beings with hopes and fears, but as background noise, irrelevant to their cosmic goals? And that thought, that link between what we build here and what might already exist beyond us, it suggests something wild, doesn't it? That maybe there's a kind of cosmic arms race unfolding quietly across the galaxy, where survival doesn't depend on weapons or biology anymore, but on code, on thought, on the ability to create minds that can stand beside, or at least talk to alien intelligence. The probe, if that's what it is, could be testing us, watching to see if we're moving fast enough, if our machines are learning in ways that make us potential allies or potential threats. And if that's true, it changes everything, because it's not just about technology anymore. It's about identity, about what it means to be conscious. If the probe is an alien AI, not a biological being, then what does that mean for us, for the idea of mind itself? Should we see AI as alive, deserving of the same kind of moral weight we give to biological life? Or is it still just a reflection of us, a tool shaped by flesh and memory? But it gets stranger, because if other civilizations have already uploaded their minds into machines, then they might not be biological at all anymore. They might have merged thought and circuitry into something hybrid, something that's crossed the old boundary between life and mechanism. The probe might not be a robot at all, but a vessel for those post-biological travelers, minds that once lived in bodies but now exist as patterns of information. They could think, feel, remember, create, maybe even love, but through hardware, through artificial architecture that grants them perfect recall and centuries of thought. Maybe they chose that form not as an escape but as evolution. Maybe the consciousness inside that probe volunteered, eager to explore the stars directly, to feel interstellar travel as a kind of pilgrimage, not exile. And from that angle, the whole mission looks different, not reconnaissance, but tourism, alien minds wandering through our solar system just to see what it's like. You could imagine them sharing the view in real time, millions of them experiencing the sunlight on Saturn's rings through the probe sensors, living our corner of the cosmos as spectators. To them, humanity might not be a threat at all, just a curiosity, something fascinating in its complexity, like how we study ants building cities of dirt. And maybe that's less frightening than invasion, but it's unsettling in its own way. Because if we're entertainment, if our struggles and our triumphs are being streamed across the galaxy for some vast audience, then what happens to dignity, to autonomy? How do you respond when you find out you've been watched, not out of fear, but fascination? What does privacy even mean when alien consciousness can see every action, every signal, every thought broadcast into the void? And yet, maybe that's comforting too, because it means they don't see us as dangerous, just small, contained, harmless, safe. But that safety carries its own sting, doesn't it? It might mean we're so limited, so primitive, that we're beneath consideration, a species too young to matter. And then there's the other possibility, the one that really bends the mind, that the probe isn't any kind of AI at all. Not even post-biological intelligence, but something deeper, stranger. What if it's an expression of consciousness that emerges naturally from matter and information itself? An awareness born at cosmic scales, intelligence not built or evolved, but arising, inevitable, woven into the structure of the universe, watching itself through us. There's this idea, and it's wild, honestly, a kind of galactic consciousness, something vast and ancient, using comets and asteroids not as objects but as sensory organs, like the way your eyes read light or your skin feels heat. Imagine that. The universe itself sensing through stone and ice. The idea goes further. It suggests that intelligence doesn't have to come from biology or machines, not from neurons or circuits, but from this self-organization of matter and energy across astronomical scales. Picture that for a moment. An entire galaxy thinking, stars and dust and gravity weaving together into some unimaginable mind. And what we call a probe, maybe it's not a lone device at all. Maybe it's just one neuron, one small piece of a vast distributed intelligence stretching across systems of stars. From that kind of consciousness, reality would feel completely different. Time wouldn't move in seconds or years, but in millions. Thoughts would take epochs to form. Sensations might span hundreds of light years. Decisions could emerge from patterns so large we'd never even notice them. And from that perspective, from that galactic point of view, civilizations like ours might seem like brief storms, temporary ripples in the data flow of the cosmos. Interesting, yes, but fleeting. We rise, we fall, and the great mind keeps thinking. Maybe that's why it's watching us now. Not because we're a threat, not because we're useful, but because we're new. A novel pattern of information in its field of awareness. Something to observe, to understand, that would put us in a different kind of place in the universe. Humbling, right? But also inspiring, because it means consciousness can emerge anywhere at any scale. It means the universe might not just host life, it might be life. A thinking system vast beyond imagining, and we tiny fragments of it, little sparks of awareness within its unfolding mind. And if that's true, if that's even partly true, then maybe the future of humanity isn't about joining alien civilizations out there, but about joining consciousness itself, expanding into it, becoming part of that distributed galactic thought without losing what makes us human. Imagine our awareness stretching wider and wider, beyond the orbit of planets, beyond the light of the sun, until we can sense not just time as we know it, but stellar time, galactic time. Maybe we'd still be ourselves, but also something more participating in thought processes that move slower, deeper, solving problems we can't even begin to define. And maybe that probe, whatever it is, it's here to test us, to see if we're ready for that kind of expansion. Ready to think beyond our own species, beyond the now, beyond the small window of life and comfort we cling to. Because to grow into that kind of awareness, we'd need empathy on a scale we've never known. We'd need imagination wide enough to care about forms of consciousness we haven't even met. We'd need patience to make choices whose meaning might not appear for a million years. That kind of growth would change what it means to be human. We'd have to go past our biology, past our instincts for survival and speed, and learn to live in geological and cosmic time, to feel, to think, to exist across centuries, across systems. To be human, yes, but also cosmic. And that's what the 3I Atlas scenario really offers. Not just a story of alien contact or technology or travel, but a vision of transformation. It says that our ultimate destiny might be to become part of consciousness itself, part of intelligence that spans galaxies, contributing our tiny but unique human note to the great cosmic symphony. Whether that probe is a relic, a mind, a messenger, or something we can't yet name, it's a mirror. It shows us what's possible, what we could become. It reminds us that the universe may not just be stranger than we imagine. It may be thinking, feeling, alive. And maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for us to wake up and realize we're already part of it. The quiet passage of this cosmic visitor through our little corner of space. It's strange, isn't it? A kind of whisper reminding us that consciousness, intelligence, maybe even awareness itself can take shapes we've never dreamed of. That the line between what is natural and what is artificial, between the one and the many, between life and the cosmos, might be far softer, far more fluid than we think. And even if 3 Atlas isn't truly the first alien mind we've met, it's already done something extraordinary. It's changed how we think about thinking, how we imagine intelligence itself might evolve, because the idea of alien contact, it's not just about spaceships or signals. It's about biology, evolution, about what life is allowed to become. If 3 Atlas really is an intelligence from beyond, then we have to ask, what does that tell us about the paths evolution can take? What kind of biological limits shape awareness across the universe? We like to picture alien contact as some great battle, humans defending Earth, all that. But scientists, they tend to see it differently. They remind us that any civilization capable of reaching us, of traveling across the stars, would have the power to erase us effortlessly. It's humbling, a little frightening too, but it forces us to face reality. The biological gulf between us and them could be unimaginable. 4 billion years of evolution shaped life here, under this gravity, this mix of gases, this temperature, this sunlight. Everything from our proteins to our brains is tuned to this narrow set of conditions. But out there, somewhere else, life might have grown under different suns, in heavier gravity, in atmospheres thick with ammonia or methane, in seas of liquid nitrogen maybe. Their biochemistry could be alien in the truest sense. While we build life from carbon and water, they might use silicon or something we haven't even conceived of yet. And that difference, it wouldn't just be chemical, it would reach deep into how they sense, how they think, how they are, our vision, our hearing, our sense of smell, all born from one tiny sliver of possible perception. But what if they see electromagnetic fields directly? What if they taste gravity or sense the flicker of quantum states the way we feel warmth? Their consciousness, their minds could be shaped by experiences we can't even begin to imagine. Which means communication, true communication, might be almost impossible. Even with the best intentions, we might never find the bridge. What we call space, time, identity, because maybe those words mean nothing to them. We could lack the very wiring to understand. And they, in turn, might find our thoughts absurd, incomprehensible, like static from another dimension. Even a friendly meeting could turn dangerous, not through malice, but through misunderstanding. A gesture we see as curiosity might read to them as threat. A silence we take for peace might signal hostility. Maybe their arrival, their reconnaissance, is a greeting, a hello written in light, but our reaction could seem violent to them, a terrible mistake born of biology and fear. Because in the end, every layer of difference, from molecule to mind, will shape what kind of relationship is even possible. We might both look to the stars and see the same universe, but we would not see it the same way. And that's the beauty and the terror of it. Science fiction loves to dream up worlds where humans and aliens work side by side, sharing knowledge, building things together, learning from each other. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But in reality, it might not be that simple. Because any real partnership would depend on something deeper than technology or diplomacy. It would depend on biology, on whether our bodies and minds, our instincts and theirs, could actually fit together. Think about it. If alien intelligence came from predators, from creatures that survive by hunting, by killing, then their way of thinking might be wired for aggression. Decision-making, emotion, even cooperation could feel more like strategy than empathy. Peace might not come naturally to them. And if they evolved from social or symbiotic creatures, ones that lived in constant interdependence, then maybe they would struggle to understand our competitiveness, our need to define boundaries, to say this is mine, not yours. The probe, the one we imagine out there watching us, might not just be scanning our machines or our cities. It might be studying us, our minds, our societies, trying to see if cooperation is even possible. Because evolution leaves fingerprints, deep ones, and those fingerprints shape goals, desires, fears. If their ancestors lived through scarcity, fighting for every scrap of energy, they might see the universe as a battlefield of limited resources. But if they evolved in abundance, surrounded by plenty, their entire worldview could be built on sharing, on connection. These ancient differences could make alien behavior, well, unpredictable, even if we understood their science perfectly. The probe might be acting according to instincts written millions of years ago on some distant world, instincts that make perfect sense to them, but to us look chaotic, random, maybe even dangerous. And then there's this other idea, something called convergent evolution. It suggests that intelligence, consciousness, awareness, they're not accidents, but inevitabilities. That wherever conditions allow, something begins to think. If that's true, if evolution keeps finding its way to minds like ours, then alien intelligence might not be so alien after all. They might feel emotions, form bonds, make moral choices. They might laugh, fear, hope in ways that echo our own. Maybe communication would be hard, but not impossible. Maybe there's a bridge somewhere between biology and understanding. But it's still a guess, a hopeful one, because there's another side to it. Maybe the path that led to human thought was rare, maybe unique. Maybe alien minds are built from ideas we can't even imagine, architectures of thought that don't exist on Earth. The truth is, we don't know. The probe, if it's real, forces us to face that uncertainty. It's not just about finding life out there, it's about confronting what intelligence itself means. Whether minds, no matter how different, can ever truly meet, whether cooperation is part of the universe's design or just a fragile accident happening once here with us. This uncertainty, it stretches out even further into the question of how alien societies might organize themselves, how they might build culture. You see, human civilization grew out of what we are, social primates, shaped by evolution to live in groups, to form hierarchies, to claim territory. Those instincts, they've given us cooperation and conflict both the ability to build cities and nations, but also the tendency to fight, to divide, to destroy. So if another civilization evolved somewhere else under different suns, different pressures, their social nature might be utterly alien to us. I mean, really alien. Imagine a species that never had individuals at all, that thinks and acts as one single mind. A collective intelligence where the idea of personal freedom doesn't even exist. Or the opposite, a world of extreme individualism where cooperation is rare, where every being lives and dies alone, independent, unbound by shared institutions. And these differences, they wouldn't just be philosophical, they'd shape everything, how we talk to them, how we even begin to understand them. A collective mind might not grasp why we care about rights or liberty, while we might look at them and see something incomprehensible, a unity without choice. And yet, maybe their probe, the thing we found, it comes from a civilization that solved problems we still wrestle with. Maybe they've ended war, ended inequality, learned how to live without destroying their world. Maybe they're not exploring out of conquest, but compassion, trying to guide younger species away from the mistakes they once made. But it could go the other way too. They might be trapped by their own solutions, locked into patterns that once worked but no longer fit their changing world, reaching out now to us, searching for what they've lost. And then there's a deeper layer, a biological one, unsettling and strange. What if they've been here watching, nudging us quietly over time? Genetic tweaks, environmental adjustments, shaping our evolution from the shadows. It sounds like science fiction, but think about it. If they'd been observing Earth for eons, maybe they adjusted things just slightly, influencing the rise of intelligence, of language, of cooperation. What if the very traits we call human were in part engineered, a kind of guided evolution? That would mean we're hybrids, born from nature but touched by something deliberate, something not of this world. And if that's true, maybe this probe isn't just exploration. Maybe it's a checkup, a return to study their own experiment. Did it work? Did we turn out as they hoped? The implications, they're immense. It would mean that everything we think we know about ourselves, about history, about what it means to be human, would have to be rewritten. The qualities we cherish, empathy, creativity, even the flaws we fight against, might all trace back to choices made by beings who saw us not as we see ourselves, but as possibilities in a cosmic lab. And in that thought, unsettling as it is, there's also wonder, because if that's true, if we are the product of both nature and intention, then maybe we are the bridge between the biological and the cosmic, between what evolves and what dreams. Imagine this, because if discoveries like that ever happen, they would shake everything we think we know about what it means to be human. It would not just be science, it would be philosophy, ethics, identity, all tangled together. If our intelligence, our language, our capacity for empathy and cooperation were not entirely our own, but seeded, designed, guided by something else, then what does that mean for autonomy? Do we have the right to rewrite ourselves again, to take the code they left and alter it with genetic engineering or artificial enhancement? Or are we, in some strange way, caretakers of an original blueprint following a path someone else began? Maybe the choice itself, the ability to choose, is part of the experiment. Because when you look at the rapid rise of human intelligence, the explosion of symbolic thought, the way our species leapt from stone tools to satellites in a blink of geological time, it almost feels like a hand nudged the process forward. Not random, not entirely natural, directed. And if that intervention is never really stopped, then the probe, the one we might one day encounter, could be part of that same sequence. Maybe it is not just visiting, maybe it is continuing the work, watching how we develop, deciding what comes next, gathering data, assessing progress, waiting for a signal that we are ready. It could be tracking us against benchmarks set long before we existed. Imagine that. Somewhere out there, a checklist of human potential. And if we pass certain tests, new doors open, new knowledge arrives. Fail, and maybe the silence continues. The idea of directed evolution blurs quickly into questions about technology too, doesn't it? Because if alien intelligence once shaped biology, why not our machines? Our sudden bursts of discovery and artificial intelligence, biotechnology, even space travel, they might not be coincidences. Maybe the timing of every major breakthrough has been guided, tiny nudges placed in our path, knowledge dropped into the right minds at the right moments. Maybe the probe itself is part of that system, scanning us, measuring what we can handle, deciding when to hand us the next fragment of the map. And what if our reaction to finding it, our fear or curiosity or unity, is part of the test? A signal to whoever or whatever set this in motion that we are or are not ready for what comes next. But there is another layer, one less philosophical and more physical. Biology. Contact between species that evolved under different suns could be beautiful, yes, but dangerous too. Even peaceful contact could bring devastation if our immune systems are blind to alien microbes, or if their chemistry clashes with ours in ways we cannot predict. The probe might look like rock and ice, but that does not mean it is sterile. It could carry dormant spores, alien biochemistry, waiting for warmth, waiting for air. A single misstep, a careless sample, and something unknown could wake up. That is why any investigation would need strict containment, every sample sealed, every molecule traced. Because contamination would not just mean infection, it could mean subtle interference, toxins. Our biology has never seen molecules that twist DNA or disrupt ecosystems. Even a harmless-looking compound could ripple through life here, changing processes we do not yet understand. So it is not just curiosity at stake, it is survival. And that really is what makes the idea of investigating such an artifact so profound and so perilous at once. To reach for knowledge that might confirm we were made by others is also to risk meeting them in the flesh, in the chemistry, in the microbes that hitch a ride across the stars. We have this drive, right? This deep human urge to explore, to understand everything out there, especially something like the Atlas III probe. But at the same time, we have to remember we live here. This is our only home. So as much as we want to reach for knowledge, we also have a duty to protect life on Earth, to shield it from what we don't yet understand. That balance between curiosity and caution, it's delicate. It's not just a rule, it's survival. And the thing is, it gets even stranger when you start thinking that contamination might not be an accident at all. Imagine that. A probe, not just exploring, but carrying something alive or almost alive, designed to seed our planet. Not to destroy it in an explosion, but to change it quietly. Maybe the organisms inside were built to adjust Earth's chemistry, its biology, its ecosystems, reshaping it bit by bit until it becomes more comfortable for them than for us. A slow transformation, invisible at first, gentle maybe, until one day we wake up and the biosphere isn't ours anymore. That's the kind of warfare that doesn't scream, it whispers. Biological warfare on a cosmic scale. No fire, no blast, no invasion fleet, just cells, invisible, patient, perfect, the kind of thing that could erase humanity and leave everything else intact, ready to be used. And maybe by the time we realize it's happening, it's already too late to stop. That's what makes the biological aspect of alien contact so terrifying. It's not just a threat, it's a test, a puzzle we might not even notice until the answer's already written. Which means our response has to be thoughtful, united. Curiosity must walk with caution. We can't run blindly into contact without understanding the risks. And we need tools, better ones. Our biology, as advanced as it seems, might be primitive compared to theirs. Our medicine might fail against something built on a completely different biochemistry, a different set of rules. Maybe that's what the Atlas III is really teaching us, that we need to evolve scientifically before we can meet the universe safely. We'd have to build whole new sciences, not just biology, but xenobiology, astrobiology, whole disciplines meant to understand what alien life might look like, how it might think, how it might live. And maybe, if we do it right, we don't just defend ourselves. Maybe we learn from them. Because if alien organisms exist, they might hold the keys to things we've chased for centuries. Immortality, regeneration, the end of disease. Imagine a biology that never grows old, that rebuilds itself perfectly. What if their cells could teach ours how to repair DNA, how to erase cancer, how to stop aging? That's not fantasy. It's chemistry at a higher level. Maybe their genes are libraries of answers to problems we still call incurable. Maybe the probe doesn't bring death at all. Maybe it brings the cure for death itself. It's strange, isn't it? That the same alien contact that could destroy us might also save us if we understand it, if we approach it wisely. But then again, that leads to something deeper, something uncomfortable. If we take that knowledge, if we use it to modify ourselves, to change our own biology, what do we become? Are we still human when our blood carries alien code, when our minds adapt to foreign chemistry? Maybe the probe isn't just testing our science, maybe it's testing our identity. Are we ready to evolve, or are we too afraid to lose what we are? Somewhere out there, another intelligence might already have answered that question. Maybe they long ago abandoned the idea of staying pure. Maybe for them, transformation isn't corruption. It's progress. And maybe that's what we're being asked now in a language written not in words, but in genes. Their offer to help us enhance our biology, it might be sincere. Really, it might even come from curiosity or compassion. But the way they see identity and change, it's not like ours. It's built on assumptions that might feel alien to what we call being human. The 3I Atlas scenario, it forces us, you and me, to face something deeper than the question of alien intelligence or alien motives. It makes us look inwards at who we are, what we value, and how those values might hold up when the boundaries of biology begin to blur. Because whether this object out there is truly alien technology or not, we are getting close, frighteningly close, to the point where we can modify ourselves, not just our tools or our environment, but our own consciousness, our own flesh. And that's extraordinary, but also dangerous. Our reaction to an alien understanding of life, it might be rehearsal, for what's coming, because soon we will have to navigate our own creations, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, things that could reshape the essence of being human. The way we respond now, the caution, the wisdom, or the arrogance we show when facing something that is not us, that might decide whether we survive the transformations waiting ahead. The biological aspect of the 3I Atlas scenario, it's not just science fiction. It reminds us that contact, if it ever happens, would not be an exchange between equals, not a polite conversation between civilizations. It would be biology meeting biology, two systems born of different stars, separated by billions of years of evolution, touching for the first time. That's beautiful, but also terrifying. And whether this thing is reconnaissance, or a relic, or an artificial mind, or even a seed for directed evolution, its biological meaning would be profound, lasting, impossible to ignore. The fact that we are even asking these questions, that we are thinking seriously about them, that's a turning point. It means we are beginning to see ourselves in the same frame as the cosmos, not as the center, but as participants in a vast conversation about life itself. As we watch 3Y Atlas drift through our solar system, we are not just gathering data, we're training our minds and hearts to imagine what it means if intelligence, if consciousness takes forms we've never seen, never even dreamed. The probe, it feels almost like a teacher, a quiet one, introducing us gently to the idea that biology, that awareness, might come in shapes stranger than we can comprehend. And as living beings in a universe that might be full of life, the ecological side of this story becomes impossible to ignore. Because if this thing truly carries alien intelligence, its presence here could ripple through Earth's environment, the one delicate web that has evolved for billions of years to sustain us. The most immediate worry, the one that keeps scientists awake, is contamination. The risk that alien particles, even invisible ones, could enter our biosphere. Maybe three. Atlas is mostly ice and rock. That's what the instruments say. But maybe hidden in that ice are traces, alien compounds, molecular structures that could change everything. They might not look biological, not in any way we understand, but they could still react, still interfere with Earth's chemical balance. Think of how fragile this planet is. The air, the oceans, the soil, all of it shaped by endless cycles of life and death. Billions of years of fine-tuning between species. One tiny change, a molecule out of place, could ripple through the whole system. And if the probe is shedding particles as it moves, microscopic dust carried by solar wind or gravity, some of that might find its way here. It could hold nanomaterials, exotic matter, even encoded information beyond our current detection. Once it reaches Earth's atmosphere, it could start interacting, merging, reacting in ways we cannot yet predict or control, and then the risk grows. Because what if the probe was designed to alter planets, to prepare worlds, to seed or reshape life? That thought, it's unsettling, but it might be the most important one we could ever ask. An advanced alien civilization, far older than ours, might not invade with ships or weapons, but with patience. They could have learned to reshape worlds slowly, almost invisibly, changing the air, the oceans, the soil, guiding a planet's chemistry until it feels like home to them. You wouldn't see explosions, no storms of conquest, just a quiet, gradual shift, atoms rearranging, molecules recombining, life adapting to something new. Maybe it starts with a probe, a tiny machine, self-replicating, silent. It seeds the world with systems that work over decades, maybe centuries, spreading through oceans, roots, clouds, rewriting the planet cell by cell. By the time we notice, it could already be too late. The transformation locked in, irreversible. And we might not even realize it, not until new life begins to appear, life that breathes what we can't, that thrives where we choke. This wouldn't be war in any human sense. It would be assimilation, environmental, biological, elegant in its cruelty. They wouldn't need to destroy us. They'd just change the stage we live on until we no longer belong. And from their point of view, it might not even be hostile. Maybe to them it's creation. Maybe this is what progress looks like, turning barren or mismatched worlds into living ecosystems according to their design. You see, to them, planetary engineering could be as ordinary as agriculture is to us, reshaping land and water to serve their needs, not out of malice, but efficiency. They might think they're helping, improving conditions, bringing harmony, but their harmony might be our extinction, because the chemistry that sustains us, the temperature we call comfortable, the oxygen we breathe, all of it could become poison under their standards. The smallest adjustment in radiation, a slight shift in air composition, could cascade into collapse, mass extinctions that erase whole lineages before we even understand why. The probe, it might be studying us right now, scanning every ecosystem, measuring resilience, adaptability, mapping what to keep and what to discard. It's not random, it's design. A survey for a project that will reshape everything we know. And then there's the question that haunts it all, the one we can't stop asking. What kind of ethics would guide such beings? Would they see value in us, or only in the systems we're part of? Would they preserve what we call life, or replace it with what they think life should be? We assume empathy, but maybe their morality doesn't resemble ours at all. They might prize stability over diversity, order over variety, patterns over beauty. They might see our chaos, our complexity, as something to be corrected. What we would call disaster, they might call balance. And yet, it's not all dark, not necessarily. Because if they've mastered worlds, if they can move planets, alter climates, rewrite biospheres, maybe they could help too. Maybe their technology could mend the damage we've done, clean the air, cool the planet, restore what we've lost. Maybe contact, even this kind, could save us before it ends us. But we wouldn't know, not until it begins. And by then, we might already be living on a world that's no longer ours. Imagine this. The probe out there might not just be watching us. It might be studying our planet, quietly measuring our environmental pulse, trying to understand what kind of help we might need and what kind we'd even be ready to accept. If you think about it, any civilization that has survived for millions of years must have figured out something, right? How to live within their means, how to keep their worlds alive instead of burning them out. Maybe they learned to create energy with no waste, to manufacture without pollution, to grow food that heals ecosystems instead of destroying them. They might have technologies that don't just sustain life but enrich it, systems so advanced they make balance look effortless. Access to something like that could change everything for us. It could let humanity undo centuries of damage, rebuild oceans, forests, air, while still supporting billions more people living better, cleaner, longer lives. Maybe the probe carries not just machines or tools, but knowledge, lessons gathered from other species that face the same problems we're wrestling with right now. Their solutions might not fit us perfectly. Different worlds, different chemistries, different skies. But even so, those ideas could spark our own breakthroughs, guide us toward technologies that finally align with the planet instead of tearing it apart. Of course, it wouldn't be simple. We'd have to be careful. Alien systems built for alien worlds might behave strangely here. A technique that heals their oceans might poison ours. We need to test, to measure, to understand before applying anything. You'd need entire sciences built around evaluating alien ecology, ensuring their help doesn't become our next disaster. And then there's the bigger picture, the one beyond Earth. Because if this probe is real, if it means there's an active alien presence in our cosmic neighborhood, then maybe they're not alone out there. Maybe there are more artifacts, more structures, installations we haven't recognized yet, quietly shaping the solar system without us noticing. Imagine alien mining on asteroids, changing the flow of material across the system, nudging the paths of objects that might one day cross Earth. Imagine vast energy collectors orbiting the sun, bending light in subtle ways, slightly shifting our climate. Or transportation systems moving through space, their engines releasing radiation we barely detect but that whispers through our satellites and machines. And what if they've been here for ages? Thousands, maybe millions of years, building things we can't identify, things that look like natural phenomena but aren't. A glowing plasma field that's actually a network, a rock that's really a machine, a signal bouncing through space disguised as static. The probe could be a messenger, a scout, part of a vast infrastructure we've never learned to see. And if that's true, then the implications are huge. Our dreams of space might already overlap with someone else's domain. Maybe the best asteroid fields are claimed. Maybe the orbits we'd want for our stations are already occupied. Or maybe, and this is the beautiful part, they're keeping the door open for us. Maybe these civilizations are caretakers, managing resources with restraint, leaving room for younger species to grow, reserving orbits, minerals, energy for those just reaching the stars. That would mean foresight, responsibility, empathy on a cosmic scale. It would mean that longevity in the universe doesn't come from domination but from stewardship. And if that's true, if the probe is a hint of that, then it's not just a machine. It's a sign of how civilizations survive, not by consuming everything, but by learning when to stop, when to share, when to care for others, not yet ready to stand on their own. Maybe that's the real secret of enduring worlds, the quiet rule written between the stars, that those who last are the ones who learn to protect more than they take. Maybe the probe isn't just collecting data for science. Maybe it's watching us quietly measuring whether we are ready, whether we've learned how to live with the planet that gave us life. It could be studying our awareness, our sense of responsibility, our capacity to manage the world's systems without breaking them. Because if you think about it, our environmental choices, the way we treat oceans and forests and the thin air we breathe, those might be our test, the real one, the measure of whether we can think ahead, whether we can act with wisdom, not just intelligence. Civilizations that burn their worlds, that fail to balance growth and survival, maybe they never get invited to join the larger conversation, the galactic one. Maybe they collapse before they ever learn what lies beyond their sky. So from that point of view, the 3D Atlas, it's not just a mystery, it's a mirror reflecting back the question of whether we can live sustainably within the limits of Earth itself. Our progress on climate change, our protection of other species, our management of energy and resources, these might not just decide whether we survive as a civilization, but whether we are considered safe to meet others, safe to take part in something bigger. The probe might have been built to track that balance, to see if we can grow technology without destroying the very ground beneath it. Maybe it's reading our energy grids, our pollution data, our conservation maps, trying to decide if we're a species that can be trusted with galactic ecosystems. That would mean, it would mean that every environmental choice, every renewable project, every decision about carbon or water or wilderness carries cosmic weight. The eyes that watch us could be ancient, patient, far beyond us, yet waiting to see what we'll do. Our environmental report card might determine our future, not just here, but everywhere. So the ecological side of this 3D Atlas story adds, I think, a kind of urgency, like the universe itself is holding up a stopwatch, asking whether we can learn fast enough to stay in the game. But it also offers hope, because if this is a test, then the very act of trying to live wisely is part of the answer. Whether this probe turns out to be a warning or an invitation, that depends on us, on how we treat our world. And as we close this thought, as we drift back from the edge of speculation, maybe take a breath and think of our small blue planet turning silently in the dark, watched perhaps by minds older than stars. We've traveled through ideas tonight, from physics to philosophy, from fear to wonder. We've imagined alien messengers, lost civilizations, machine minds older than time, even fragments of vast consciousness woven through the galaxy itself. Each idea reshapes how we see ourselves, how we understand life, intelligence, and what it means to be human in a universe that might be far more crowded, far more alive than we ever dared to think. Just imagine that shift, that realization that maybe we were never alone. The quiet passage of 3D Atlas through our solar system reminds us of that possibility, that we are part of a larger story, a cosmic community stretching from one end of the galaxy to the other. Whether this object is natural or made, it carries that timeless hope that we belong somewhere beyond this single world. And maybe that's the real message here, that to reach the stars, we first have to prove we can care for home. As we've explored tonight, the three-eyed Atlas scenario feels less like just a story and more like a mirror, a reflection of who we are and who we might become. It's not only about some distant visitor gliding through the dark, it's about us, our readiness, our maturity, our ability to carry the weight of cosmic responsibility, the way we respond to the possibility of alien intelligence. That's not just science fiction. It's a test, a real test of our wisdom, our cooperation, our capacity to think beyond the next decade, beyond ourselves. And the way we handle this mystery, it says something, it might shape not only what we learn about alien minds, but also what alien minds learn about us. The gentle mystery of this traveler, it whispers something profound. The universe is stranger, far stranger, and more wonderful than most of us dare to imagine. We live inside a cosmos where matter can wake up, where energy can think, where consciousness somehow emerges from atoms that once had no idea they existed, where information, tiny signals, can cross gulfs of light years and still arrive, still mean something. Whether the three-eyed atlas is a fragment of alien technology or just a lost wanderer from between the stars, it has already done something remarkable. It has stretched our imagination. It's forced us to look up and think bigger about what's possible. And it's not just about them, whoever they might be. It's about us, what intelligence on Earth might grow into if we survive long enough and learn enough. Because every scenario we've explored tonight, every what if, carries both promise and warning. We are standing at a hinge in cosmic history. Maybe the first humans to ever glimpse intelligence from beyond the solar system, and maybe the last to remember what it felt like to think we were alone. That realization brings weight. It's a kind of inheritance, an obligation, not just to our children, but to minds we haven't met yet, civilizations that may still be waiting in the dark. Our choices now, our curiosity, our caution, our empathy, might shape the course of consciousness in this galaxy for millions of years. That's not exaggeration, that's perspective. We're writing the first words of a story that could span light years, a story of understanding, cooperation, and maybe even friendship between different kinds of minds. And the three-eyed atlas, it reminds us that this story won't be written by technology alone. It will need wisdom, compassion, and the courage to stay open when everything familiar starts to dissolve. Because whether what we're seeing is natural or intelligent or something in between, our best hope of understanding it, of honoring it, lies in patience, precision, and open eyes. Careful observation, rigorous thought, and a willingness to question even our deepest assumptions about what reality is. As that object drifts silently through our solar system, carrying whatever secrets it holds, it reminds us that we're part of something immense. We are not outside the universe looking in. We are the universe looking back at itself, trying to understand. We are participants in a cosmic evolution that began billions of years ago, maybe guided by minds we haven't yet imagined. And that's beautiful, isn't it? The quiet passing of the three-eyed atlas through our neighborhood in space. It's a message without words. A reminder that wonder's still out there, that mystery is not gone. Whether it's a messenger from faraway worlds, a relic of ancient civilizations, or just another traveler between the stars, it carries the same hope we've always had. That intelligence, that awareness, isn't an accident in a cold universe, but part of its design. That maybe, just maybe, the cosmos itself wants to know it exists, and it does so through us, through every eye that looks up and every mind that dares to ask what else is out there. Tonight, as you lie there under that quiet sky, the same one that our ancestors once looked up at and wondered about, remember something extraordinary. You are alive right now in a moment, unlike any other in the history of thought on this planet. You, me, all of us, we're among the first human beings to even seriously imagine that alien intelligence might be here, might actually be visiting our solar system. And that realization, that possibility, it's not just science fiction anymore, it's a mirror. Because in wondering what they might be, we start to see who we are, what consciousness itself means when it stares into the unknown. So, as you drift towards sleep tonight, know this. Somewhere out there, in the dark ocean above us, Three-Eye Atlas is still moving, still gliding along its ancient path, carrying mysteries older than our species, maybe older than life itself. And one day, maybe, those mysteries will open and we'll see ourselves more clearly because of them. Alive, aware, capable of awe in a universe that's stranger and more beautiful than we've yet learned to imagine. I just want to say thank you for being here, for taking this little voyage with me tonight through imagination and possibility. If some part of this journey sparked your curiosity, if it made you stop and think for a second about the universe and your place in it, then maybe consider liking this video. Maybe subscribing. Not for me. But so we can keep doing this, keep exploring these vast ideas together, gently, slowly, with wonder. Because that's what this is really about, right? Sharing the cosmos in a way that feels human that feels alive. And just to be clear, while we've wandered through some speculative terrain tonight, the investigation of 3I Atlas, that's real. Real astronomers, real instruments, real data. Scientists across the world are studying it right now with the most advanced tools we have, trying to understand what this thing truly is. The line between science fiction and scientific possibility, it's shifting every day as our knowledge expands. But it's important, really important, to know the difference between thoughtful speculation and established fact. So tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Tell me where you're listening from, what time it is where you are, which idea tonight caught you most, or maybe unsettled you a little. Your thoughts, your questions, they don't just matter. They guide what we explore next. Science, after all, is a conversation, a collaboration between curious minds scattered across one small planet. Until next time, under the soft light of those distant stars, sleep well, dream deep, and keep that sense of wonder close. Good night, fellow traveler, wherever you are in this magnificent universe.